Hi, welcome to my Messy Fingers. I'm Charlie. We are back for another video tutorial series, and this one's going to feature Stamperia's Hidden Grove. Now, Scrap and Create sent to me the MaxiPad 22 single-faced sheets and 2 of the 10 double-faced sheets 12 by 12, along with a package of ephemera and a bag of cute brass goodies. Now, as supplies last, she shared with me that these will probably either dwindle in the amount or she won't be able to send them at all. So I'm just letting you know that ahead of time. So in case you're disappointed, you can reach out to Scrap and Create if you have any further questions. But here we go. We are ready. I've got 2 chipboard pendles. These are medium weight, and I get them from Scrap and Create, and they're just super sturdy. It's by Graphics, and that's Grafix. And these are cut to 9 by 9. I have 2 of them. And then my spine piece is 1 7/8 by 9. And then when I'm working with my albums, everyone has their own way of making an album, and I encourage you to use whatever is more comfortable to you, but this is my style. On the outside of the album, I bind it with a product called Tyvek. It is actually a mailing envelope. It is extremely sturdy, and I will tape it onto the back, and then that way when the cardstock gets on here, the cardstock is gliding over the Tyvek and not the rough edges of the chipboard. It helps to minimize your breaks and your cracks and your tears. Now, depending upon how you make your album, I cannot and will not guarantee that you won't ever get any. So, but the way I do mine, I have had very few incidences of it. So these will go on the outside, not the inside. Your friction is on the outside of the album, not the inside of the album. I've seen people put this on this way, and then they put the cardstock back here, and when they go to close the album, that's where they start to have some trouble. So my method is this goes on the outside. Now I use a spacer to space my chipboard pieces so that they're a true 1/4 of an inch. I sell these spacers on my website, mymessyfingers.com. I cut 2 pieces of Tyvek that are 2 inches by, and my length varies. I don't really want it to go all the way to the end. So these are 8.5 by 8.5. You will score at 7/8 and then 1 1/8. And that creates the 1/4 inch gusset, and you're equal on each side. So let's go ahead and let's get this going. I'm going to get my picker. I'm kind of excited to play with this collection. It's got just some different images on it. Okay, let's see. I'm going to line this up on my grid here across the bottom. I just did that wrong. Oh, I'm so sorry. I gotta do surgery here. Hold on just a second. Oh my goodness sakes. I was not paying attention to what I was doing. Okay, let's do this again. I'm going to have to run some tape over that. I should have taken off the tape on the inside before I laid that down. Let's see if I can get down here where there isn't any undo on it. All right. I'm going to put my spacer in here. And then I'm going to walk this up to it, put this down. I'm going to leave it in place. Pull that out. Now I'm going to scoot this up so that this is on a line here on my grid. Match this up with that same line, and then I'm just going to walk this right up next to it. And there's my 1/4 inch gusset. I quit using 5/8 of an inch gusset an 1/8 of an inch gusset a long time ago. I just felt that the size of albums I make, when you go to close, there was so much pressure on that corner, and I'll show you, that it would actually create the problem with the spine splitting. So I'm just going to rub, just put a little bit of glue under there, and I think I'm okay. All right, now turn it back over. Charlie, pay attention this time. Take out the middle piece. I'm going to put my spacer back in. And then I'm going to walk this right up to it, press it in. And I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to line this back up here across the bottom, put my spacer back in. Well, Dolly, come on. Hold it in place, and then I'm going to walk this one in here on the same line on my grid pattern. Lay it down, and there we go. We now have nice, even, same size hinge gusset, however you want to call it. For me, it's a hinge because that is what it's going to act like. So right now it's a little bit soupy, but that's okay. So let's put that aside, because now you're going to get out and you're going to cut some, my glue is bubbling up here out of the tip. Hold on here, I got to stop the flow. There we go. Clean my fingers off. All right, you're going to cut 2 pieces of cardstock. Now I'm using what is called Baghdad Brown. I find that it has the cleanest tone, and I thought I had, but it's called Baghdad Brown, and I got it from Cardstock Warehouse. You can buy it in single sheets. You can buy it in a 25 pack. Down below in the description field, you will find the link to this paper if you want to use it. But you will need 25 sheets of this cardstock. It's a 100-pound weight. It's probably heavier than you're used to, but it is my preference because when I get to the internal pages, I want there to be some stiffness, some strength to them, and I find that 100-pound works great for that. Otherwise, you can pick and choose your own color of brown or a different color if you don't want to wrap your album in brown. But with it being 9 inches, we need this to be 11 because I want a 1-inch frame all the way around the album. So you're going to cut One piece will be 12 by 11. And the other piece, actually you're going to cut two pieces. They're going to be 12 by 11. And then the seam is where I put my tape, and I use 3/8 of an inch. I don't need to use more than that, and I certainly don't want to use less than that. So what will happen is when we get ready to put this together, we are going to center this so that this seam is center in the spine. I don't want my seam anywhere near here because there's pressure on it, and I know it's going to split and tear and separate. And I don't like the appearance of it being here on the front and the back of the album unless it's absolutely necessary. So I make sure that my seam is dead center, and then I'm going to measure and trim both my ends so that I have 11 inch, an inch all the way around. Now I don't want to move and have it adjusted again, so I'm going to do this a little bit off camera. Okay, so I've made my marks, and I'm going to go put these on my cutter, so I will be right back. All right, by the time I got done trimming these, the final measurement across was 11¼ inches. So 11¼ each piece by 11, and then I use 3/8 of an inch tape. So this is 11¼ and I'm going to go ahead and put these two together. Now, if you don't want to use this particular paper because it's 100-pound weight, I understand. There are some people that don't like working with the heavier cardstock, and that's great. But like I said, I like it. It's sturdy. So now I'm going to recenter this. I have an inch here, but I don't have an inch on this end. What did I do wrong? So I don't really want this. I'm going to try and get them even. I'm just going to come a little bit off center. I thought I had measured that correctly. So this is 11¼ and this is 11. So how did I mess that up? Oh well, I will make it work. So we're going to get this chipboard onto the brown paper, and to do that, we're going to lay down a whole bunch of tape. So I'm going to use fairly wide tape here and here. Just along the seams. It's just kind of one of my OCDs. I want wider tape along these edges, and I'm not really, to be honest, I'm not really sure why. I just like the security of that tape. Okay, now I'm going to come down here to the end, and I'm using 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to run in the middle, and then the middle of each section. Turn this around. Gonna run it in the middle. And then in the middle again. All right, let's burnish this. In the, if you purchase the acrylics, you're gonna get this spatula that comes with it. I know I'm not using it for its intended purpose, but I have arthritis in my hands, and if I use this rough, abrupt edge right here, I can actually burnish more because I've got a wider berth and I've got something larger to hold on to so that my fingers aren't hurting using a small wedge. All right, now the next thing we're going to do, now that we've got this together, is I'm going to palm my hand and I'm going to lift this, and then I'm going to peel off the tape, keeping my left hand firmly in place. And I'm going to lay this over. All right. Now, if you've not made my albums before, don't jump ahead because there's a critical thing I need to explain. This Tyvek is really loose. So if you don't give it a gentle tug and then lay it down, you're going to have this cattywampus. So it's going to end up crossing over itself, or it's going to squeeze in on itself. So just hold firm and pull it out and lay it down. I'm going to take the other papers off. And again, I'm giving a gentle but firm tug. Okay, voila. Now I'm going to run 1/2 inch tape here on the brown, 3/8 of an inch tape here on the cardstock, and I'm going to go all the way around. I'm sure I'm going to be a little bit crooked. And I am going to stand up and make sure that I'm still in frame because I changed my mat and I had it marked where I made sure that I was staying in the frame. So I don't have those to fall back onto right at the moment. I went back to my blue. I have a glass one, but my eyesight's getting kind of strained because there's glare that comes up off that glass. So I went back to my mat. Okay, now I'm not putting tape here. This will be addressed in a little bit. So let's look for 1/2 inch tape, and then I'm going to go all the way around here. Now, if you want to do this in smaller strips, you certainly can. I like to just do it all in one, so it's done. Whoops. Okay, now time to miter my corners. Okay, now comes the fun part. And we're going to bend this paper up. Start to break that fiber. Okay, now I'm going to take the backing off of the tape. And then right here on these corners, I'm going to fold them down just a little bit because when I lay this over, that tape's going to be up underneath of there and I don't want that. Okay, now the big tape. Okay, starting in the middle. Okay, and then I'm going to use this to smash down and turn in these corners. So let's go here. And again, I'm going to take and pull this back a little bit. Let's work this to get the paper fibers to loosen up. Down in the middle and up we go. And then I call it the smash and turn. We're going to work the next long side. In the middle. Okay. Okay, and now you can use whatever it is you want to use, but I am now going to push this cardstock down into this hinge. I'm going to bend to identify where this edge is to the spine, and that's what I'm going to focus on as I put this in there, because I will show you later why that's important. Okay, I'm just going to push it in. The tape will adhere it to the Tyvek. Now be careful what you use and how hard you're pressing, because if you tear this at this point, then you're going to have to either use glue to seal the tear, or you're going to end up taking the paper off if the tear is really bad. All right, so then fold this up, and you've got really nice, non-stressed corners and the hinge here on the spine. All right, next piece. You are going to cut a piece that is going to measure 6 inches across by 8 7/8, and it's going to go right here, about 1/16 off the top and the bottom. I'm going to use 1/2 inch tape all the way around the perimeter on this. I think I have some, there we go. All right, now taking that 1/2 inch tape, we're going to do the edges here, but only the inside. There's no sense in wasting tape, plus the piece that we're going to tape over these will have sufficient tape to secure this close. All right, let's get this a good burnish. All righty. So now you cut this to 6 inches. This is 1 7/8, but you've picked up space here, additional 1/4 inch. So you're going to sit this, and you're going to roughly try to make sure that this is equal on both sides. I've got mine laid where I want it to go, so I'm going to leave it right in place. I'm going to take this out, and then I'm going to secure that one. I'll come in here and take this one out. Now you can do it whichever way you want. Now, I'm going to remove the tape from the perimeter next, as soon as I get this off of here. But I'm just tacking it down just ever so lightly. I don't want it really burnished in there yet. Come on. Because we're going to do the same process, just a gentle tack so it will stay down, and then we're going to identify where our hinge is, and then I'm going to push this down into the hinge, and my emphasis is going to be on the edge of the chipboard where the spine is. Now, once again, whatever tool it is you are using, you need to be very careful that you're not pushing so hard that you're going to tear it. So I'll show you as an example. This ball, I use this to get me started so I can get it down in there. I don't tear with that, but this I will tear it because it's a smaller surface. So I'm just going to do repeated fast little motions, and I'm just redefining where that hinges up next to the spine. Okay, now I can burnish this down. And then when you close this, you've got some nice tight corners. And again, no stress here. This is all ready to go. We will now put in some pages on here. I have 2 sheets that are 8 7/8 in height, but I left them at their 12-inch length because I don't know why I don't measure. I do these often enough, but I'm always forgetting how long I want these cut. These are scored at 5/8 of an inch. I want 5/8 of an inch in between each of my signatures. So my pages need to be 5/8 apart, because I find that if I leave them at a 1/2 inch, which is typical of most crafters, then when I make my big signatures, they're smashed up next to each other. So I want 5/8 of an inch. So if you're going to use a different type of a hinge mechanism for your pages, that's fine. But just make sure that to accommodate what I make, that you've got 5/8 of an inch in between the pages. Now I'm going to take this edge, and this is where this comes, where this is critical, because now I've got my line where my spine is, and I can lay that right up next to it, starting at the bottom, and hoping that I'm not going to tack this down completely, because I need to make sure it's not laying crooked, and it is. Yay, yay, yay. I just need to adjust this top part a little bit. This needs to be 1/8 of an inch off down there. There we go. Okay, so my second mistake. I'm such a ding-a-ling. Now that I've got my page in, I need to trim it. I want to be about 1/4 of an inch off of the end. So I'm going to have to put this on my paper trimmer. And I will ruin a blade by doing this. But I'm not taking that off. Okay, so this ended up trimming out at 9 1/4 inches by your 8 7/8. So you'll know what you need to trim yours at. I'm going to now run over to my big cutter and do this at 9 1/4 inches. Okay, let me put my surgeon away. Okay, I'm gonna close that. take this off. And then I'm going to take this edge and I'm going to butt it right up behind that seam and make sure that they are hopefully level. And they should lay over and not be, yay. Okay. Time to burnish. Okay, you're done. So when you finish here, you got 5/8 here, you have 5/8 here, and then you have 5/8 here to the edge of your spine. I do not cover the inside panels. It's a waste of good cardstock. We're going to put a signature over this, so this is going to get covered when that happens. So the next video will be decorating the outside of this, and I've got kind of a theme started. So I look forward to seeing you then. Bye-bye.